guest. My name is Kyler. I will be your Toastmaster for the evening. I want to start by doing our pledge. I don't know if we have a flag available, but we'll just all do the pledge if you follow after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. The first thing I will do is I will go ahead and I'll go down everyone's roles and give them a chance to explain. So first, I'd like to introduce our grammarian, which I believe will be Olivia this evening.
Yes, hello, I'm the grammarian. I hear a huge, or I seem to be a delay. Am I okay? Can you hear me well?
There's a slight delay, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'll press on. Good evening, everyone, Toastmasters, and I don't think we have any guests. So my role is tonight, I am the all-counselor and grammarian. So my role as an all-counselor consists of listening to the speeches, that's the prepared speeches, and the table topic speeches, and I will listen for filler words like so, and any words that are used in place of a long pause or a pause at all. And then the next thing I will be evaluating or listening for is grammarian, and that is misuse of the English language. I will give my reports on both of those at the end. And lastly, the word of the day is assiduity, and that means constant or close attention to what one is doing. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Next, I'd like to call on our timer.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I'm Luke, and I'll be the timer for tonight. So my main goal is to time our table topics and our speeches. So I was really impressed with David's ingenuity of using his Frisbees last time. So I too wanted to try to be a little unique here. And so I found a couple of household items that I'll be using for our colors. So the first one tonight for our green marker is just a green Tupperware. And this is going to signify that we have reached for table topics. It will be 1 minute. And for our speeches, I believe it's going to be the 5-minute mark. So next, for our yellow or halfway point, we will use a freshly picked squash that I got from the garden. And I will be eating this later after the meeting. And so this is going to show that we are halfway through our table topics at 1.5 minutes. And for our speeches, it'll be 6 minutes. And lastly, for red, or to show that we're at the end of our time, I will use a red spatula. And this will show that for our table topics, we have reached 2 minutes. And for our speeches, we'll be at the 7-minute mark. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I like that you found items that are the exact same shade of green, yellow, and red as the timer box that we have back at Carpe Diem. Like, they're exact same shades. It was very good. Next, I'd like to call on our table topics master.
Hello, everyone. This is Carrie. Tonight, I am the table topic Toastmaster. And particularly, I focus on something not about the coronavirus. We want to forget it, and we want to enjoy tonight also. And so I'll give you each questions to all of you, and hope you enjoy my question.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. And then last, I think I would like to call on the grammarian, but I can't remember. Olivia, are you also the grammarian?
Yes,
okay.
And I did that already. Grammarian, I'm going to be looking for the misuse. I'll be listening for any misuse of the English language. Yes, I already gave that description.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Well, without further ado, we'll move on to the next portion of our meeting, which will be the speeches portion of our meeting. And tonight, our first speaker will be Cheyenne. And, oh no, I'm sorry, our first speaker will be, let's see, I don't recognize your username.
It's David.
David, okay. All right, our first speaker is David. Sorry about that. I didn't recognize your username. And the title looks really interesting, Captain Kirk or Mr. Spock. So I'm looking very forward to hearing this. Let's all welcome David.
Thank you. Captain Kirk or Mr. Spock, understanding your leadership style. Captain Kirk is the captain of the Starship Enterprise. He is a leader's leader. He's very emotional. He gets things done. When the starship is in trouble, he saves it, not by himself, but by his leadership role, by his ability to motivate people and inspire them to be their best and do things they didn't think possible. It's amazing. And then we have Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock is reflective, curious, logical. He's more of a follower, but when needed, he can be a very good, if reluctant, leader. I'm Mr. Spock. And that's why I chose this pathway, which is dynamic leadership. I've never been comfortable in the role of a leader, but I know it's important and we all need to lead at times. Most great leaders have a style that is unique to them. I find this so true. The people that have inspired me the most in my life, that have really moved me and changed me as a person, have been the leaders that there's something about them that's just different, that's unique to them. And by that, I mean, I don't think leadership is something you can necessarily learn in a book. I mean, you can learn about it, but it has to be something from within, that your own deal. Toastmasters talks about eight different styles of leadership. And as part of my online module, I had to do a long questionnaire, and they gave rankings on each of the different 8 styles as they applied to me. And I'm going to share this with you now. You can see this in my camera. The 8 styles were ranked from highest or most applies to me to least. And this is amazing in that it really reflects the way I feel. When I saw this, I thought, yes, this is me. I'm going to talk about the first 2 and the last 2 because I really don't have time to talk about all 8. The first 2 deal with dynamic leadership style and innovative leadership style. Did I say democratic and innovative? Democratic leadership style is about consensus decision making. If I have a decision to make, I'm going to get my entire team involved and let them be part of the decision making process. It's also about letting other people take the lead sometimes, being comfortable relinquishing the role of leadership at times. A good example of this is when I was project engineer, the beginning of my career with the state of Alabama as a civil engineer, I was a project engineer for a while, and I had assigned to me several roadway inspectors. Now, I'm a kind of a young kid, just recently out of college, and I could have been kind of cocky and said, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you know, I need to see results. But I recognized, you know, that they had, in some cases, decades of experience, and they were experts at what they did, and probably knew more about their job than I was ever going to know. And so, you know, I basically told them that and said, we're all working together here, and I'm going to give you a project to work on, but it's going to be your project. You can make the decisions. I'm ultimately responsible for it and will help help you with it, but it's going to be your baby. And I think in doing that, I really earned their respect, and they looked at me more as someone they could work with rather than some young engineer trying to make a name for himself. So this style of leadership the democratic style can work very well. One way it doesn't work so well is when time is limited, because then it takes a little bit longer sometimes to make decisions. But the second form, innovative leadership, is my favorite. This is incredible. The world today is changing like never before, and technology is advancing, and we need leaders that can encourage new ideas, encourage creativity. This can be very useful in solving complex problems, the type of problems that come about in today's world. And when I was working for the Alabama Department of Transportation, being a state agency, they weren't always that receptive to this. The one phrase I heard more than anything else when I wanted to try something new was, "Yeah, but this was the way we always did it." And it's like, but yeah, sometimes innovation works. Let's try something new. So those are my two favorite. And another thing about innovative leadership is that it can cause some members of the team to have some anxiety or apprehensiveness about doing new things. And sometimes new ideas do fail. But more often than not, it's the only way businesses can survive in today's world. So the last two items are authoritative and bureaucratic leadership styles. When I read those words, it makes me want to throw up. But I recognize that all of these styles are important, and they all have their place and their times to be used. Authoritative and bureaucratic are somewhat similar. They involve having end goals, a clear direction, setting strict standards. With bureaucratic leadership style, its decisions are absolute. What I say goes, and it's more of a motivation by discipline, a top-down hierarchy, kind of think military. A good example of this was when I was first out of college. My very first job was as a field engineer on the Cochrane Africatown Bridge. Well, my boss was a man named John Jernigan, and his side job was a master gunnery sergeant in the Coast Guard. And we were his soldiers. I mean, what he said went. And this was a brilliant man too. He was a registered land surveyor, which some people would say is really harder to get than being an engineer like myself. But that type of project, that bridge, we had such strict deadlines, and it was such a complicated, detail-oriented project that we needed someone like in his leadership role, that kind of leadership. Although for me, I didn't like the guy. He scared me. But I recognized his leadership style worked, and it was effective. So in closing, there are different leadership styles for different situations and different people. And they're all important. And it's good for a person, if I'm comfortable in one leadership style, to learn about the other ones and use those when appropriate. I'll say that we all need to be leaders at times. We all need to be Captain Kirk sometimes. But we also need to be good followers. It's just as important, and it will make us better leaders. Imagine Captain Kirk without Mr. Spock by his side. It just wouldn't be as good a TV show. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that speech. I like the analogy of Star Trek because I'm a huge science fiction fan. So I appreciate you describing the differences in leadership styles using that analogy. Next up, for our second speech, we have Cheyenne, who will be doing her evolution of the fire service speech.
Thank you.
Let's all give a round of applause for Cheyenne.
Okay, so I am redoing a speech for my innovative planning. My first speech was given on November 4th, and I talked about the evolution of the fire service. So I am here to bring some more information, same speech, but reworked. So the fire service is an organization that is nearly perfected its trade. There are action plans for almost every possible scenario before it occurs. Writing and equipment assignments are made at the beginning of shifts, and that makes for a seemingly flawless operation once calls start coming in. And now more than ever, higher emphasis on technical and operational training and safety are being put in place. But unfortunately, the fire service has not always been as efficient and capable as it is now. So I'd like to share with you from the beginning how this now community essential began. Now y'all know I was cheating. Dang. So as the Pilgrims began to settle in the 1600s, they were quickly made aware of how vulnerable they were to fire and how this threat was prevalent to them. In a short amount of time, many of the settlements were destroyed. In 1609, the first New World settlement of Jamestown was destroyed by fire just 2 years after being founded. In 1620, the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and 3 years later, almost the whole place is devastated by fire. In 1630, settlers make it to Boston, and there's still no firefighters. And let's see, sorry, to pull up my picture. One of the reasons they're so vulnerable is this is what their houses look like. So that's a wood siding and also a wood roof. And also that's a wood house with a wood chimney for your fire and a wood fireplace.
Oh no.
So there's still no firefighters. Their system that they used was called a bucket brigade. So what they would do is if there was a town fire, the able-bodied men from the town would come and they would line up from the water source to the fire and dump buckets of water from one man to the next till it reached the fire. Obviously, it was not very effective because many towns were destroyed during this time. So in 1630, they decided to ban wood and thatch for chimneys and roofs. So that helped, and they also started requiring chimney inspections, and so they're clean, so you don't have that buildup. They also began to bring in better equipment, things like stronger buckets, ladders. They had poles with swabs on them to help snuff out sparks. They also invented a fire hose. It wasn't pressurized by electricity. Obviously, they didn't have electricity yet, but it had a thick bag on the end, so you would fill it with water and then step on it, kind of like a blob, and then it would shoot the water out that way. So unfortunately, even with all these progressions, they were still not enough to stop fires. Boston had their 2 major fires that caused major devastation in 1653 and 1676. So after this, Boston decided to ship in some fire engines from England. Those were just to get to the fires quickly. They still didn't have the technological advances. So we're now fast forwarding to the year 1718. There's still no official community fire service. The only thing that exists at this time is called the Mutual Fire Society. And this is only for the wealthy citizens. It's kind of like a social club. And if a fire happens, they would only provide fire protection for those members. Benjamin Franklin, he is in his town of Philadelphia, and he's thinking, hey, everyone deserves help in a crisis, especially when it's a fire that could destroy everything that you own. So he started the Union Fire Company, and he started off with 26 volunteers, and each got 6 buckets, and I believe they each got a ladder. They kept those at their home. So that, like I said, that is 1718. So in 1743, they started to try to make upgrades and improvements. So they started to make more efficient pumping engines, working on those all the way up until 1785 and 1791. Just some upgrades through the year. In 1803, Philadelphia saw its first wooden hydrants around town. In 1853, horse-drawn steam engines that could be efficient for pumping the water, those were beginning to come around. And in 1853, we saw the first paid fire company. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio. After that, several cities followed: St. Louis, Baltimore, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C. So that kind of sparked the paid fire service. Interesting fact, we didn't see a collaboration of fire and medic until the Civil War in the 1860s. The fire service was exempt from military service because there was such a high need for their services, but they started to buy ambulances and would go and help transport the injured, and they would use the fire stations as medical stations if the hospitals were overwhelmed. So that's, like I said, where we saw that first collaboration. So all of that brings us to today. So today, most fire stations have a fire truck. They'll have one with multiple different ladders on it, and then they'll also have a rescue truck. And the rescue truck is equipped with basic life support supplies and also vehicle extrication tools, hydraulic spreaders, jaws of life. And they have the capability to put out small fires. One thing I did want to close with is just letting you know that your fire department in your area does so much more than just answer fire calls. They answer calls to wrecks, hazmat situations, smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, fallen power lines, social services, fall and fire prevention classes for the public, CPR classes, and also anything else that the public may need. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne. That was a wonderful speech. I really appreciated the beginning part where you were talking about the history of the firefighters. That's something that I've actually not taken the time to consider before. It's actually pretty fascinating to see how far we've come. So I want to move us into the next portion of our meeting this evening, which will be the table topics portion. So I'd like to call on our table topics master, Carrie, for the next portion of the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. As I told you earlier, I would like to talk about something not coronavirus. I like to forget it for this moment, fun time. The question is, again, nothing related to coronavirus, okay? And then thinking about what makes me always happy. And of course, that's the food. So, or something to put it in your mouth. But tonight, all about the, please share your experience, episode, or opinion, or your ideas about the food that I give you. And anybody going to first volunteer?
I think Olivia raised her hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go first.
I'm sorry, I don't see the all of you, just a certain. Okay, Olivia, what
Yeah.
about the coffee? Tell me about your experience, episodes, opinion, or your ideas about the coffee.
Hello, everyone. My question that I've been asked is to tell my experience with coffee. And it's funny that you would say that because I was talking to a friend of mine just yesterday, and we were talking about some things that we call or consider our guilty pleasures. And one of the things that he was considering a guilty pleasure, he was asking me, what did I think of it? And I said, nah, I better not take on any more pleasures because I have enough in my arsenal. I have enough things that I need to try to curtail or keep under wraps. And one of them is 8 o'clock coffee. And I have been so content with drinking my Folgers. I only drink 1 cup of coffee a day, and I like a dark roast, but I like Colombian coffee made by Folgers, and it's good, and it's always been just fine for me. And he saw a Colombian coffee that was made by 8 o'clock. And I must admit that it tastes a little bit better than the Folgers coffee. And I said immediately, no, I don't want any more of that coffee. Get it away from me because it costs more. And I do not need to add that to my arsenal of things or my guilty pleasures. So for me, I do enjoy one cup of coffee. I will state that caffeine has absolutely no effect on me at all as far as energy or making me feel upbeat or my heart racing, none of that. So I don't drink coffee as a pick me up. It does nothing to pick me up. As a matter of fact, I can drink coffee right now and go to sleep for the next 6 hours and really think anything of it. But I do like coffee in one cup. I have never been able to make the second cup taste as good as the first, so I don't try anymore. I enjoy my one cup of coffee, and Colombian is my favorite, and I will settle for my Folgers. It's cheaper than at 8 o'clock, and it tastes good. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster. I mean, Tabletop Master.
Thank you, Olivia. I usually drink only 1 cup of coffee per day too. And I have one quick question. 8 o'clock means in the morning or at night?
No, let me go get it. I'm at home. I'll show it to you. Listen to it. Can you see it?
Oh, okay. The name of the
Yeah,
cup.
the name of the coffee is 8 o'clock. Right, right. Yeah, don't start drinking it because you might like it too much. Stick to
Doesn't show
it.
the AM or PM either.
Right, right. It doesn't say. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Olivia.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
next, anybody? And if you raise your hand, please.
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay, great, Kyler. Okay, what about the chocolate ice cream?
Okay. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I've been asked to talk about my opinions about chocolate ice cream. And chocolate ice cream is probably for 90% of my life has been my favorite flavor of ice cream. It's usually my go-to. You can pretty much, you can mix whatever you want in it. It's always good. There's lots of different types. You can get the homemade, or you can get the Dutch chocolate. There's Swiss. There's just different options you can get. It's good if you put like Oreos in it. It's good if you put marshmallows in it. Recently, though, I've been branching off into other flavors. I've got into, I think mint chocolate chip is my current favorite. Also, we'll get into butter pecan and other flavors like that. But for the most part, I would say, especially as a kid, I would not eat any other ice cream except chocolate ice cream because it was my favorite. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me turn on the light on again. Okay. Yeah, my favorite chocolate ice cream is really dark, very dark chocolate ice cream. And I usually don't put any toppings such as mint chocolate or peanuts or something like that. I really enjoy just chocolate ice cream. That's my favorite too. And the next, anybody?
I'm Diego. I'd like to volunteer.
Oh, okay. What about the French fries?
French fries.
Yes.
Okay, my fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I was asked to reflect on French fries. I remember when I was younger, I don't remember really liking French fries. Even though I went a lot to Burger King, I was way more interested in the burgers than the French fries. I think also because I think at that age also they were really salty even for me. And I noticed like my mouth would get really pruned up with all that salt after a while. So I just started having a bad association with French fries when I was younger. But I will admit that now that I'm under way more stress from school and things like that, like French fries are really tasty. Like they're a nice comfort food to have. So I appreciate the opportunity that Carrie has given for me to reflect on the assiduity of French fries. I guess to reiterate the point is when I was younger, I wasn't very assiduous when it came to eating French fries. I was way more concentrated and focused on eating burgers. Okay, I'm going to relinquish the lecture back to Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Actually, I usually ask the McDonald's waiver reduce the salt because I don't like the salty French fries. So if you don't, the low sodium French fries is actually good. And like you said, yeah, when I eat the really salty one, my mouth is something like that, right? So I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, do we have time for next one more?
I think it is time to switch into evaluation time. We are
Okay.
3 minutes over. Okay.
Hope you enjoyed the questions about foods. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. That was really fun. It was a cool topic. It was something fun to talk about. I think we all enjoyed, and it was nice to get a break from talking about all the stuff with the virus. It's nice to just have a normal conversation. Next, I want to move into the evaluation portion of our meeting. I'm going to call up our first evaluator for David's speech. I did not get the name of the first evaluator. That would be Maurice. Okay, so I'm going to call up Maurice to evaluate David's speech. Everyone give Maurice a round of applause.
Well, actually, I'm the general evaluator, and I'll introduce the first evaluator of David's speech, and that is Sean.
All right. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, Maurice. David's speech was titled Captain Kirk or Mr. Spock. The speech title was very interesting to me as well because I'm a Star Trek fan. Grew up watching reruns, and I'm very familiar with both of them. Mr. Spock has the super strength where he can reach behind your back and clamp your whatever that is and make you pass out. So that's what I remember about him. I thought that'd be pretty cool to be able to do that. But all right, so his speech is about his leadership style, and so the purpose of his speech was to identify his leadership style and also to share an aspect of his leadership style and discuss leadership styles in general. So David, you excelled at the good vocal variety, hand gestures, and you looked comfortable on video. And you've always felt very comfortable in our meetings in person. So there definitely wasn't any break from that. With your career history, you had great stories of different leadership styles, your style, and also your past bosses throughout your career. One thing you might want to work on is tying all the content together for a conclusion that brings it all together instead of, but that's just something to kind of think about for next time. I think you just kind of went deep into the details on the story, so I think you just ran out of time, but in the future, just kind of thinking about that. To challenge yourself, I would work on, you had great vocal variety, but I think you can take it up another notch and really knock it out of the park. Because right now you're doing great, and your eye contact, vocal variety, gestures are just really good. So on the score, on the different aspects of the speech, on clarity, I gave you a 3. On vocal variety, I gave you a 3. Eye contact, a 4. Gestures, a 4. Audience awareness, I wasn't sure how to grade that one, but I was definitely very interested in your speech topics, and being also an engineer in the same line of work, I thought that was pretty cool. Some of your stories were really, really interesting to me. So, and you definitely felt comfortable in your speech. And on the topic itself, your leadership style, I thought maybe could have been elaborated on a little bit more. You talked about some of your experiences early on in your career, but I was kind of interested to see how that evolved a little bit. But overall, it was a great speech. Really, really good job. So I'll turn the lectern back over to Maurice.
All right, thank you, Sean.
All right.
And in order for me to stay consistent with my assiduity of being the general evaluator, I would like to introduce Diego, who will evaluate Cheyenne's speech.
Thank you, Maurice. It is clear that Cheyenne has exercised a lot of assiduity with improving her prepared speech skills. And I had the pleasure to provide and highlight some moments of her hard work. So Cheyenne, I think it was I wish there were more history teachers like you who really showed a lot of fascination and interest in the material that you wanted to share with us today, because it didn't feel like a history lesson. It felt like a Nova special. It felt like something that was really, it felt like edutainment. So it was very entertaining, but like you still learned some really cool stuff. I'm also a sucker for history, so it really resonated with me. So I think it was very wise of you to incorporate historical elements and, use a timeline to bring us up to the present. I thought that was very wise. Let's see some other comments I want to share. It was also good that you thought to show on your phone, like, this is a picture of what the pilgrims, what type of household they lived in, what type of equipment they had, how their houses were constructed, rather than just describing, oh, they were in a full wooded cabin or something like that. Cheyenne, one suggestion of growth that I want to provide for you is, I really think right now you are really excelling with the table topics portion of our meetings, because you don't work with any notes. It's clear that you are able to think really quickly on the fly and share your thoughts. And I really think learning to let go of your notes is what's really going to take your next prepared speeches up to the next level, because it's clear that you are very comfortable now with sharing your thought processes on the lectern. I think the only thing that's holding you back now is your reliance on the notes. And I really think for the next speeches that you give, if you really make an effort to reduce the amount of notes you have and then eventually to go with 0 notes, I really think that whatever speech topic you'll give, it will be very captivating. So I feel like reducing your reliance on notes is the next big challenge for you that I really think when you overcome will really take your speeches up to the next level. Some other comments I want to share. It was also for audience awareness that it really came through that you were highlighting, like how at the end the fire service provides way more services for all of us, more than just addressing fire hazards and things like that. So I thought that was a really great way for you to integrate audience awareness and to really show how the fire service affects us in the audience. Cheyenne, I want to suggest also, I felt that the rate at which you spoke tonight was a bit too fast, and I feel like that was because you had a lot of bullet points and a lot of things you wanted to communicate. So I really want to suggest the next prepared speech you give, try timing yourself more ahead of time on it, and really think about like what are the three main ideas that I need to share with this presentation, because that will really make you feel less stressed and less prone to wanting to speak rapidly through the speech, and you can get all of your points out in a very clear manner. But otherwise, Cheyenne, it's really great that you did this prepared speech tonight. It's been since November since you did the first speech, so I can't say with confidence if you incorporated feedback from the first speech, but it's clear that you are improving with this particular speech. And I really think that, you know, now that you're really good with table topics, taking those table topic skills and getting comfortable with not working with notes for your prepared speeches will really take it to the next level, and it'll be a very great pleasure for the eyes and the ears to listen to. I'm going to relinquish lectern back to Maurice. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Next, we'll have the Thomas report with Luke. Take it away, Luke.
Somehow I got muted there. I'm not sure. Okay, so for the timers report, I'll start with the table topics. We had Diego, you had 1 minute and 21 seconds. Olivia, you had 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And Kyler, you had 57 seconds. For our prepared speeches, Cheyenne had 7 minutes and 43 seconds. David had 7 minutes and 54 seconds. And I'm not sure, it's been a little while since I did the timer roll, if I was supposed to time the evaluation portion, but Sean, you did 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and Diego 4 minutes and 11 seconds. And I will turn it back over to the general evaluator.
All right, thank you there, Luke. At this time, we'll have the all-counter and grammarians report with Olivia.
Hello, hello. And tonight I will give you my report for grammarians and all counter. David, I was listening. I really wasn't paying attention to your speech and for misuse of the English language, and I forgot to listen at the very beginning for any ums or ahs. But when I was listening diligently, I didn't hear any. Cheyenne, you had 2 ums and 2 uhs. And for the table topics, I caught myself with at least one. If someone else was counting, I'll take your numbers into consideration or I'll add yours in, but I counted only one for myself. Kyler, you had 2 1 you had 2 you knows, and you had 2 likes. Now, as far as misuse of the English language, they were a little out of context, but I didn't write down exactly how they were said. Diego, I noticed that when you were giving your table topics, you said, I noticed like my mouth would get when you were talking about what salt would do to your mouth. So your like was your filler word, and it was definitely kind of like out of context. So didn't really need to be there. Let's see, Sean, your evaluation, you had 1. Diego, I didn't get any in your evaluation. Also, Diego, you used the word of the day 3 times, even used it in past tense. So very good for that. I gave you a little star by that one. And Maurice, you used it at least once. If I missed anyone else using it, please let me know. I know I walked away, but I was still listening. So that's my report. Back to you. General evaluator. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Olivia. And now for the general evaluation of the meeting. We started 5 to 6 minutes late, and we had to, I guess, scramble to get a few roles filled. Other than that, the meeting went smoothly, had 2 great speeches, 2 great evaluations, and the meeting went very well. So at this time, I will like to relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you for your evaluation team. Thank you, everyone, for your evaluations. Next, I would like to move on to the education overview. Do we have an education overview for this evening?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then in that case, we'll move on to the awards section of the meeting. And we'll let the president announce some of the awards we have this evening.
Thank you, Kyler, for being the helmsman of our meeting tonight and our captain for tonight. It is with great pleasure and enthusiasm that Carrie, our Hilltoppers Toastmasters member, won the international speech contest in the March competition. So let's give her a big round of applause. Carrie, way to represent Hilltoppers.
Hey, Diego,
Great job, Terry.
I got that picture.
Wait. More people were speaking. Who spoke?
I was going to share that picture on the screen.
Oh, okay. Let me highlight you. Okay, do you know how to screen share?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
Okay.
Congratulations again, Carrie. I am so proud that you came from our group. I had
Thank
no
you.
doubt that you would do it. Congratulations. And with such constraints, you know, with so much going on, you could have easily just thrown in the towel, because I would have. I wasn't even considering it, but even if I had been, knowing that it was going to be online and, you know, so much going on, I don't think I would have even attempted. So without, overcoming every hurdle, especially with the state of our nation, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank
What is my thing doing?
Let me see if I can pull up a picture.
Here we go. I think I got it now.
You got it?
Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me see if
No. I'll let you do it.
where is it? Allow. Oh, I can't. Okay, I don't know how to make it so I can let you screen share, but I have a photo. Let me pull it up. Sorry, gang, hold please. It's such a good photo. It needs to be shared with everyone.
Well, on my end, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yes, that is a default thing that I couldn't figure out. But here, see?
Aw.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Great
Thank
work, Harry. Okay, stop share.
Love it.
And I sent Sean the photo with the blurb, so he's going to put it up on our Facebook later when he gets the chance, so everyone will know. Great work, Harry. Okay,
Thank you.
that was the only award that had to be highlighted. There are a few minutes before 7:45. So do we have any volunteers? Let's see who next needs to speak. On the April the 13th. Okay, we have Peter, So, and Maurice are speaking next week. Do we have volunteers for evaluators?
You can put me down for table topics master, please.
Who is that? Let me
Olivia?
know. Carrie, was that you speaking?
No,
Olivia.
Olivia.
What did you want to do, Olivia?
Table topics master.
Table topics, okay.
And I'll get on Easy Speak.
Say that again.
I said I will make sure I go and log in on Easy Speak.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Carrie, it's time for you to try to be Toastmaster.
Okay, I will do that.
I will email you the cheat sheet.
Okay.
So that way you know what to do. Let's see. Do we have volunteers for general evaluator, counter, grammarian, or timer?
I can do the general evaluator. Diego, it's Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
I could take odd counter.
Tyler's counter.
Timer.
Who said timer?
Timer, Sean.
Sean is timer. Okay.
Yeah, see what you have all week to come up with a creative color.
I know the bar's set so high now. I'm not.
Just paint on him.
I'm gonna let my daughter come up with some really colorful. Well, no, I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna do that.
I walked around the house and grabbed random objects for probably 30 minutes to try to figure out the right color pattern. I had jars of jalapenos, but I was like, man, they ain't green enough. And then so finally settled with that.
Wow.
You like pull up your webcam and like make sure the lighting was just right. Like,
I did, yeah. Yeah, I have to sit in my truck because if I go in my house, my internet and connection is so bad where I live that I would like lose connection all the time. So, but yeah, so it's been fun walking around the house trying to figure out what to use for colors.
Cheyenne, would you be Toastmaster? No. I spoke at it from my fault. Cheyenne, can you be an evaluator?
Sure.
Thank you. I'll let you evaluate Maurice.
I could be an evaluator as well if you need some.
Thank you, David. I'll put you down to evaluate Peter's speech. I will try and reach out to Peter and see if he is still available to speak because he hasn't attended any of the Zoom meetings as of yet. So I don't know if he will commit to this speech.
Hey, Diego, I'll also I'll email all the new members that showed up kind of right before our break and just touch base with them and let them know about the Zoom, just kind of remind them and everything. And I'll send out that email tomorrow.
Thank you, Luke. I will, and I'll send out one email with the Zoom, and then next Monday, I'll send a reminder email about the Zoom meeting. I think that's something I can do to help.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to those guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Luke. Much appreciated. Okay, folks, I think we've assigned as many roles as we can today. Thank you all so much for participating in our first April meeting, and fingers crossed that in May we'll be meeting in person. So let's hope that will be the case. All right. Thank you all so much, and we will be in touch for next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, good night, everyone.
Night.